A lot of times when they shoot, they're going for a leg, you think they just drop down and sprawl. Grab a hold of one arm and I'm going to insert this twist here. From here I'm going to rock back. As I do, I keep his elbow very close to my crotch area. Once again, squeezing. From this rear positioning here, foot of stroke deep into the crook of my elbow, catching my bicep, bringing the hand to the rear, dipping my head forward, and to bring those elbows together, pulling them into my chest. Força! Hello, my name is Michael D'Alba. Welcome to Combative Grappling. I'd like to discuss a little bit about grappling and why you're going to need to practice this grappling skills in the first place. Grappling happens in the most closest of your fighting ranges. Whenever you're striking or you're kicking or any other type of fighting breaks down, or the opponent or you don't feel comfortable in that particular range of fighting or those tactics that are being used, you close for a clinch, you'll have grappling. Anytime you're grabbed onto or you grab onto them, you will have a situation where you can grapple. And if you are not familiar with these tactics, you can become victim of them. I'm going to use Dean for this. So, anytime, from any kind of position, if you're in a fighting position, anytime, say he punches, and now there's a degree of contact, you now have the option to grapple if you wanted to, just because of the fact that you've grabbed. Grappling can entail going with a lock or anything of that nature, a takedown, anything of that nature. As long as there's contact, you'll have that ability to grapple. If you're in a boxing type of a situation, and again, you don't feel comfortable here, the minute you close in for a clinch, you'll have the opportunity to grapple. Or if he closes in on you, you could be doing fine, and the minute he's rushed you and closed you for a clinch, you now have to know how to deal with a grappling situation. Otherwise, you can become a victim of it. This could also hold true even if you're in a further distance. Let's say I was in like a kicking distance and I wasn't comfortable with it, or I might even be using this kicking range as a bridging tactic so I can move in for a grappling situation. In this case, I'm going low. It could even go in high. I can kick low just so I can come in high into a grappling situation. This is the times you're going to need to know how to grapple. Another way you're going to need to know how to grapple is if you're in a situation where, for some reason, you were striking or whatever, and you slipped and fell, and now you're on the floor. You find yourself on the floor, your striking techniques are no longer your primary weapon, and if he knows how to grapple and you don't, you're going to be in trouble. You'll become victim of grappling again. Or, if the tables are turned, where I was fighting with this person here, and for some reason he fell, and now that I have him here, if I continue to strike, this might not be an option. Do I want to continue to strike or back up, or do I want to go down with him and now force a grappling type of a situation? See, it's these kinds of scenarios that you have to address and that you have to feel comfortable with. You have to know what are your tools, what are your options, and how to best use them. That's why you need to know how to grapple. And not just wrestling, not just going for a technique, but combative grappling. Combative grappling entails taking that person out, so he is no longer a threat. Big difference. Now we're going to discuss the basic options you have when you find yourself in a grappling situation. The basic options that you have are going to be to immobilize your opponent, to cause him to submit, or to incapacitate him, where he doesn't have an option any further. There's no more energy out of his part. Once again, to immobilize him, to cause him to submit, or to incapacitate him. I'll let you define those. This can happen both from a standing position, transitional where you're going to the ground and in the ground, or vice versa, from the ground position transitioning as you're going back to possibly a standing position. Let me explain. An immobilization, if I was in, for example, let's say some kind of a tie-up position, and I came in with something like this and I pulled my man down, and just by the mere fact that I'm holding him here using very little energy on my part, I'm going to immobilize him, anywhere from temporarily to for as long as I need to. This went from standing all the way down to the ground. This type of immobilization, again, affords me the opportunity to not waste energy and for my opponent to expend large amounts of energy. To cause him to submit, I can use a number of other techniques, but just for the sake of argument, let's say I grab this arm and I put an arm bar on him over here, or I went ahead and figure forward it. maybe this way, maybe this way. And by the fact of the pain that's caused by this arm bar, me squeezing on him, it makes him tap to submit. He's going to say, in this case, he's trained, so he taps. In other cases, he's going to say anything, uncle, whatever you want. To incapacitate him, I could have the same technique here, going to the point where I would break his arm, or I might use this just to pin that, and I can pound him into oblivion. This would be to incapacitate him, where he loses consciousness, is not able to defend himself any further, much less attack. Okay? That's going to the floor with this. These same concepts could happen from a standing position. If I come in, say, here, and I grab this wrist and I have this over here, right now I took this position, this technique into an immobilization, where I get him up on his toes and he doesn't want to fight anymore. He doesn't have much options at this point, especially if I put it nice and tight in here. Now, this would be an immobilization. To cause him to submit would be where I would really crank on this, or possibly even change it where I'm going to really crank on this to cause him to say uncle, like I said, or give up and just tap out. Or if it's done with enough force in the form of a break as opposed to a lockup, this would be an incapacitation. Where I came in, I don't know how I did this, but if I'm not mistaken, I popped and I grabbed. And in this case, what I'll be doing is snapping this with all my might. That will be breaking the wrist, breaking the elbow, and he's going to be in a lot of pain. An injury to the joint is probably one of the most painful injuries you can ever receive. I mean, just imagine when you twist your ankle playing basketball or even walking on the street, much less if you get hit playing football on your knee or your back. Anytime you hurt your joint, it's incredibly painful, and you're not going to be much of a fight after that. So those are going to be your basic options: to immobilize him, to pin him so he can't move around, where it causes him a lot of energy and very little energy on your part. Immobilize. To submit, get him to give up. Where you, again, are using very little energy on your part, and you've got him in such a way that he has to give up, otherwise it's going to be worse for him. And finally, depending on the severity of the situation, you just take him out, incapacitate him. Now what we'd like to discuss are the tools that you have at your disposal when you're in a grappling situation. For the sake of argument, let's say Dean goes in for a tackle of some sort. If I parried him here, threw him over, and then I come up on top of him, something like this, now that I find myself in this scenario, what are going to be my options? Well, obviously striking is going to be an option. I can use my striking as much as I need, whatever tools I need, elbows, strikes with my hand, headbutts, using the floor as a weapon, things of that nature, strikes. That's one option, okay? The next option you can have would be possibly doing a joint lock of some sort. In this case, as if I was striking, I might take his wrist back here and go for a lockup over here. Or, as he might maybe be reaching for me, I might peel this away, and right where he stands, I might do a finger crank. This is joint locks. This is where joint locks will come into play. A lockup of some sort. Another option you would have would be to choke him out, right? Obviously, since I'm in the top position here, I can go very easily into a choke out from in here. We will get into some of the options that you have in the various positions, okay? And the strategy that's involved. But these are some of the basic options you have. You have the option to strike. You have the option to use arm bars and use chokes. Now, other options that you have at your disposal, we discussed them earlier. You can use your trapping skills. For example, if I was coming in here striking, he gives me obstructions. I now use my trapping skills to get on top, to get those obstructions out of the way, to do whatever it is that I'm going to be doing. If in this case it's striking, it will be striking. If it was something else, like possibly to go in for a lock, it would be locking. Anything of that nature, you can utilize your trapping skills. Other tools that you have at your disposal are pressure point techniques and flesh tearing type techniques. So let's say, for example, I was in this full mount position and I dropped low, or he pulled me low, or he bucked me and I found myself down low. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I'm down here. I can use pressure point techniques that if I wanted to. For example, right in here, I could just make the knuckle, pull him in tight, and then grind it into his temple, for example. Or maybe go for a jaw right in here to get him to release me, or whatever it may be. You can use pressure point movements. Also, as I said, you can use flesh tearing. From in here, I might rip to the face. I might gouge. I might pull the throat. There's a number of not very friendly type moves, so definitely use those only in severe cases. But nevertheless, those are options, because you might be on the receiving end of those. And the best way to address them is if you've worked on them in the past. Okay? We're going to elaborate on this a little bit further. Stick with us. Now what I would like to discuss are the grips, hand grips. There's a big danger in weaving your fingers when you're trying to get a lock or trying to grab onto someone. Whenever you find your hands interlocked like this, this is a big danger for getting your fingers pulled out of the socket or break a finger. It's very easy. Okay? So whenever you do grab your hands together, I'm going to show you some of the basic grips that we use. First one we're going to discuss is what we call the bottle grip. This hand comes this way and slides down into a lock here. Looks like this. This is what we call the bottle grip. Just slide it down and grab on this way. Next one would be a clasp. Just grabbing your own hands this way is much better than going in this way, like you're clapping. Just grab them in this way. Okay? Another one we call the finger weave. I would just insert one finger in here. And the reason for that is if you notice these fingers here have to reach around all my knuckles. And look at the space in between these two fingers, my thumb and this finger. By inserting a finger here, I now can get a much tighter grip against this hand. So this would be the locking hand, my right hand in this case. This is called the padlock grip. The next grip we're going to discuss is the chain grip, where your hands are clasped and there's no fingers showing. And that looks like this. You'll find yourself using this a lot. Your fingers are no longer exposed. Last, we have a flat grip. The flat grip will be coming by grabbing your hand in this way. There's no thumb. The thumb just stays here. The same thing would apply to grabbing to your wrist, to your hand or to your wrist, either from the top or from the bottom, just pulling it in this way, or grabbing over here this way. So when you find yourself in any kind of a clinch situation where you're grabbing on your opponent, think of these basic grips you were using. The bottle, the clasp, padlock or a finger weave, chain grips and flat grips. Use these grips. They'll work for you better. Now we would like to discuss the basic tie-up positions. For grappling, you're going to have a couple of tie-up positions from the standing position. From a standing position, once you've got into a clinch of some sort, you have a tie-up position that is long range, meaning with the arms extended, and you'll have a close proximity where your arms are contracted. So you have this way out, and you have this way in. From a standing position, you'll have a number of tie-ups that you'll find yourself in. Something as simple as, again, just him grabbing you, and now this would be what I call a single limb, where I'm attacking one arm or wrist or whatever. Or it could be a combination of his limb and his trunk, high, low, middle, whatever. And then we'll also have clinches. Of these positions, there's about 18 that we work from. There's two main ones that you want to be working for to get a superior position. And that's what you're looking for, is a superior position. The first position, superior position, we're going to talk about from the standing position is what I call the third corner. For the third corner, what you can do in a number of ways, I'll just pass this for the sake of argument, and I shoot through here, and I clasp his waist. This is what we call the third corner position. I slide in directly behind him, but I stay perpendicular with him. My hips, come around this way, Dean. My hips and his hips make a T with each other this way, and my head comes up so he can't reach around and choke me. If you keep your head low like this, he'll reach around and come in for a choke. But in reality, stay there. In reality here, he doesn't have much of a choke because he only has one side of your neck. Just by merely throwing this hand out, you'll be able to get free. So don't be too worried if you find yourself in that position. Once again, for the third corner, you're just going to come in here and you get that head up, okay? And don't hang on for dear life. Just get a decent face and get your head up in here. Do one of the hand clasps we discussed earlier and just settle down in here and work for your position, jockey for your position. This is the first of the superior positions you're looking for from the standing. Another one is what we call the back control position, which is similar, but rather than sticking out of the side of him this way, you're going to come all the way around him. Okay? Let's have you facing this way, Dean. It's all the way behind him in here, either by grabbing his waist in here or working your way with one high or like this. This is in the back position and you're in here. So the back control position is here, or it'll be something like this. Maybe even better, it would be something like this. You're working it from the rear, okay? And you can find yourself in there, even from a clinch, if you shoot through, and you'll find yourself spinning around, and you'll find yourself something like this, okay? So from the standing positions, these are the two that'll work best for you. Now, once you go to the ground, rather than muscling your way around, which is fine, but again, what you need to be looking for is a superior position once you're on the ground. I am going to very simply and just very generically break down the basic positions we work off of from the floor. We'll discuss on how to get to these, but now at first, let's give these names so you can know what you're looking for. This is the first one. This is what we call the corner top position. You're on top and you're controlling his entire body via this one corner of his body. A lot of systems use this and they have different names for them. I call this the corner top position. You would come in here, keeping the head low, sprawl your legs out, get this leg sticking as straight as possible. You can hook your thigh, you can hook his elbow in this way, you can hook it in the crook, and then chain grip. There's a number of ways to secure that arm if you want to, but try not to have this fight going on. Just pull it in tight in this way and control it from the elbow and keep your head down. Again, from this position, he will expend a lot more energy to try to get you out of it than you will to try to stay in it. So this is the corner top position. The next position we're going to work on is what I call the side top. From here, it'll look like this. Your bodies make a plus sign. He's face up on his back, and I'm face down this way. This is the side top position. This hand is a danger to you, so you want to control it, either by passing it down in here, getting it off and passing it over here. Sometimes you'll hook this leg over here and grab his waist, possibly pass this hand down in here. This other hand is going to be a danger as well, so ideally for the side top, you kneel onto the bicep. If you try to catch it by kneeling on his arm or his wrist, he'll be able to wiggle that out of there. But by kneeling on his bicep, you'll be able to ride it as he tries to wiggle it around. Ultimately, it's not that big of a danger to you. You can actually sprawl it out and combine a corner top with a side top. And as a matter of fact, you'll find all these sub positions. But for right now, as a basic position, we're going to work off of this as a side top. Which brings us to the third position. Now we have what we call the full mount. We call it a full mount because there's variations of the mount where I might be more, again, cross between a side or a corner, and yet I'm still on top. So those are sub positions of the mount. This is the full mount where I'm sitting on top of him this way. With my body erect, this is the high ride. With my body down low, this is what we call the low ride. And you're still on the mount, okay? Next one is what we call the reverse top. His body will be facing this direction, and my body comes straight down on top, and it smothers him in this way. And I just control him from the waist here. By bending my knees this way, this is frog, and by spreading them out this way, this would be the sprawl. So it's either here or it's going to be in here. And this is the reverse top position. Okay? just secure it in here. Again, from here you'll have less effort on your part to maintain this position. In the process of him trying to fight you and wiggle out, he's going to give you techniques. We will discuss those in a later date. Right now we're discussing positions. This is the reverse top. If he's face down, and I find myself in this position, and you will find yourself in this position a lot, especially if they shoot on you, this is what we call the back reverse top. So the same thing will apply. I'm coming down here, and now we'll either do this frog position or sprawling out in this way, where my legs are extended. Pulling in into a frog or sprawled out, you're still in the back reverse top. This brings us to the next position. Is what we call the back mount. All right, much like the full mount, this is the back mount, only he's face down. Now, from here, you want to learn to control his wrist and control his face, as well as control his legs. If you were to come up on his knees, you want to insert these feet here. Insert your feet in underneath his here, where you could then stretch them out by kicking them out and maintain your balance. If for some reason, as you're in here and you should find yourself rolling around, and let's say he came up on all fours, maybe try to roll or something, you just keep your position and you roll with him. If you roll this way, this is still a back mount and you'll stay there. You're no problem. You just hang into here, okay? This will be a superior position for you, the back mount. Which brings us into the next position. If I were on the back and he were to take me down, what I am looking for when I do find myself in this unfortunate position, this is what we call the leg scissors, or it's also called the guard. What I do is I put him in between both of my legs and I lock him behind me. If he's down the way he is here, this is what we call the low ride, or he can come up on one leg or on both legs. This would be the high ride. It could be even in here. This is still the guard. This will be a superior position for you. It's going to afford you more options. It's much better to be in this than in the mount, okay? The final position you can find yourself, again, these are not the only ones, but these are the main ones, is what we call a leg tie. Anytime you shoot and grab someone's legs or you roll around, you'll find yourself in some of the weirdest positions. You might find yourself facing the opposite directions, grab a leg, guess what? You're in a leg tie position. And from the leg tie position, you have a number of options. It could be something as simple as, I've got his foot here while I'm standing, right? I've got his leg here from a standing position that I might have been, where I took him down, to another position where I might be on the floor, and I now captured his leg. This is a leg tie. From here again, we're going to work a number of finishing techniques as well as escapes from these positions at a later date. But this is the leg tie, where you now have secured one leg. I'm not going to get into all the variables and how you finish them and get them to tap out. I just want you to recognize these positions that you'll have at your disposal, because they're going to be superior positions. From these positions in here, again, it's minimum effort on your part to keep them. And it's going to be a lot harder for him to get out of them, and he's going to expend a lot more energy. In the process of him trying to escape, he'll find techniques come out. Bear with us.
This next sequence is called two-man drills. Here we have a series of exercises designed to instill superior positioning and finishing techniques in a more reflexive manner. Working with a partner, you will flow from various engagements to takedowns, positioning, possible transitions, and ultimately working for a finishing move. Also to be included will be escapes and counters to all these very same positions and techniques. Initially, there should be a lot of give and take. As you progress, start giving each other more and more resistance. These drills will help to develop sensitivity, strength, and cardiovascular development, as well as fluidity of tactics. In this first drill, we have individual positions into a finishing technique. Here you will work all the 8 basic positions, get into a clinch, take your partner down using a variety of takedowns, and look for a position right away, secure it, stabilize, and then go right into a finishing move. Try doing this with all of your positions. This next drill is a transitioning drill through all 8 basic positions. Starting from the corner top, transition to a side top. From there, go to a reverse top. Stabilize, move your partner, go into a back reverse top. Spin into a back mount. Again, have your partner work with you, give each other various energies. Now you're in the mount. From the mount, you're going to pull him gently into your guard. Careful with each other's wrists and ankles. Pushing him away with your feet, you're going to roll over, grab one of his legs. Now you're in a leg type position. From them, start all over, let your partner have a try. This next drill is a side top escape into the guard. Once your opponent is in the side top, buck him, insert your knee, bring your knee and elbow together, pass your legs through into a guard. You will pass your guard and assume a side top position again and repeat the drill. Try to work a different knee each time, or certainly once in a while work one knee, then work the other knee, so you're working both sides of your body. Buck him, bring your knee and elbow together, shoot that knee through, push on his thigh, and put him into your guard. This is a very important drill. This next drill is what we call a mount and guard escape drill. As your partner mounts you, you are going to push him down on your hips, block his leg, catch one arm simultaneously, bridge, buck and roll him into his guard. Coming to your knees, you're going to pass one of his legs, make sure that it doesn't catch across your neck, pull tight, drive his knee into his chest, assume a side top position, switch your legs, and then throw it into a mount. Once you reach this position, start all over again, and now it's your partner's turn. This next drill is what we call a Japanese arm bar and guard escape into a mount. From here, your partner will go into a Japanese arm bar, push his legs through before he settles in, and go into his guard. From the guard, again, pass it, bring his knee into his chest, and from there, remount him. At that point, the drill will start all over. He's going to put his weight on you, push into a Japanese arm bar, pass his leg, try to time it so you're pulling yourself in and not letting him cinch it in. From there, again, pass his guard, make sure you don't get into a triangle choke, push your hips out, and then remount. This last drill is a leg lock counter to a mount, and from the mount, knee escape drill. In this drill, your partner will go for a leg lock. Whether he's from a standing position or in your guard, he's going to go for your ankle, lay down and take the leg lock. You're going to hang on to him as he sits down. Make sure you put your foot flat onto the ground so your foot is flat completely and use his weight to pull you up. Pass his guard immediately and assume the mount position. From there, your partner will push away from your knees and escape his knees off the side and put you into his guard. At that point, you start all over again. Now these drills are simply examples of achieving superior positions, finishing moves, and escaping. Use your creativity to come up with as many drills as possible. Use different types, use different techniques, different positions. Your grappling skills will surely improve greatly.
Now we're going to address the finishing techniques that you have at your disposal from the various positions. From this corner top position, we're going to break the first category into strikes, whether they be closed hand or open hand or whatever. The strikes are going to be the first part. We'll give you a numbering system. Number 1, from this position here, I'm simply going to drop down and give him some headbutts on all the soft tissue in his face. If his head starts wiggling around, maybe trying to hide up in here, then you grab it and you expose it and then you pull it down. That will be number 2, headbutt. Number 3 will be simply just slamming his head towards the ground with both hands. Number 4, keep it nice and tight and give him some short punches right in here, to the eye or to the nose, depending on where he turns his face. If he turns his face all the way away, that's what gives us number 5. Number 5 is going to be an open heel palm to the temple or to the ear, depending on how far he turns. Number 6, he doesn't like that, so we'll give him a heel palm to the face. Number 7, tiger claw rip, ripping to the face. Number 8, using 3 fingers, slide this into the throat and rip. Number 9, from this position, I'll bring a raking elbow across his face. Number 10, I'll release here and drop this elbow straight down. Number 11 will be from the outside with a horizontal elbow. Pam. This is the striking portion for the corner top position. Now we're going to put a bookmarker right here, number 12. For number 12, we're going to start our lock series. From here, I'm simply going to take this arm, controlling his thumb, push it straight down. Notice how close I have my thigh to him. This is an arm bar across my thigh. Just pressing it out in here. If he's too strong, that brings me number 13, in which case I'll hook my foot and use it as I thrust my hip forward. Number 14, I will figure 4 this leg in here, and I will slide my feet back as I throw my hip forward. Number 14. Number 15, if I was going for a straight arm bar and he was maybe too strong where his arm would bend, then we go for a backward lever. And again, thrusting my hips forward. Number 16, going back to a figure 4. Same idea. Number 17. From here, I would keep his arm close to my body and simply just slide up here, gain control over his wrist. Notice how I'm inserting my thumb to get his wrist to flex. From here, rather than just using my arm power to crank on his wrist, I will use the leverage of my body to get him to tap. This is a wrist crank. I can do this whether his arm rests on my leg, or even if it didn't. If it was right here, I could still get the wrist crank. That's number 17. Number 18 is a backward lever, and we're going to utilize a gooseneck lock on the wrist. So I will initiate the backward lever. At this point, I'll slide my hand low to flex his wrist. The wrist flex is going to be this way, down and going out the back door. So I'm going to apply the backward lever action with my foot, and I'm going to continue to add tension by turning my wrist. Number 19, I'm going to pass this hand to the hand that I have under his head. This is called an elbow pull away. So from here, I will push his elbow up. Notice how I kind of position his hand flat and push his elbow up and secure it with my head. From here, I'm going to slide my hand underneath his hand this way, and I'm going to pull away, gliding it on the floor. Right here, since I took my head away, there's a lot of slack, but that's to show the action. From in here, I would place it in here, and it's a pull away. So let's show that one more time. Pass it here, pivot it up, break this one down, hook, and pull it away. Now we're going to move on to our chokes from the corner top. Number 20 will be our first choke. From this elbow pull away type of a position, as long as I pass this hand here, I can do what is called a cobra choke. For the cobra choke, I'll have Dean come up a little bit so you can see how it works. from this position here, I'm going to insert my hand and bring it across his face. This hand here will be pulling, where this hand here will be driving down. So from here, as I've controlled over his wrist, I'm going to insert this. Whether he gives me his neck or not is not a factor at this point, because I'm going to rake his face and make him turn and turn until he gives up the throat. And from here, it's squeeze time. The reverse cobra, where this hand might end up over here, in which case I would pass my hand through here, get this hand, and weave it through here. And now I have the cobra on the opposite side, so I would choke it in this way. A variation to this reverse cobra is, rather than passing my hand under, just keeping this hand here and grasping it here. What I will do is from here is I'll weave under, grab my own wrist into a figure 4. So it comes in here. Let's turn you this way. It comes in here and I re-grab my own wrist. And from here the squeeze will be against his the back of his neck. To add pressure, once again, I'm going to put my head against his elbow as I initiate my squeeze. Those are variations of the cobra. Next, number 22, we go into what I call a paper cutter. Anyone who's ever worked in an office knows how a paper cutter works. One side is a pivot point, and the other side comes down. So you have a fulcrum going down. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hand as deep as possible, either grabbing my clothes. If I have his clothes, I'll grab his collar. If I don't have that, I can simply just grab him or punch my fist down to the ground. And from in here, my elbow drops down with the full weight of my body down. This is the paper cutter action. Down. This way. Next one is the double paper cutter. So from here, what I will do is I will catch my hand with the hand that comes underneath. Usually if I have clothes, I'll do it in this way. So I'll have this action. See what it does to his head? This action in here. And then I'll bring this hand again, raking it till I get what I want, and now I have dual action for the double paper cutter. If I don't have clothes, you can still do this, but rather than bring your hand this way, you bring it to the outside in here. And you would work it in this way. So that'll be the double paper cutter. And lastly, we have what is called thumb to the pit of the throat. If you're in this tight spot in here, what you can do is get your thumb and just slide it down his body. It'll go right to the pit of his throat. And you will dig down and in. And it doesn't matter if he flinches up. Make your neck thick, Dean. If he flinches up, you will still be able to insert your thumb into the pit of his throat. And this will choke him out. So from this tight position, you would slide this in here and press. Now, the next portion, 25. This will address this other free hand that's coming around here being a pest, trying to grab you, trying to rake you, trying to scrape you. So what you're going to do is from this low position, as that hand comes up, you're going to peel it off by grabbing some fingers. Right there, I got all of them. All I need is just a couple. As I peel it off, once again, I'm going to pass it to my lower hand. From this lower hand position, I'm going to use my other hand as a wedge against it, and I'm going to flatten his fingers down, and I'm going to slide his hand out so it looks like this. Okay? So once again, as the hand starts getting active, you'll peel it off, pass it, stretch it out in this way. 25. '26 will be an armpit armbar right where he stands, flat. From here, as he's pushing or whatever, what I'm going to do is a quick disengage. And right where he stands, I flatten this and I work against his elbow, turning and flattening. So again, from here, as it's pushing, I go with the flow right in here. '27 is I will flatten him face down. From in here, I'm going to continue the pressure so much where he becomes face down. And we have a modified version of this. And the idea is going to be the same. The next series will entail if this arm didn't want to go straight, it found itself flexing because it doesn't want me to do this. So it's going to flex. As it flexes, I'm going to bring it close to my body, catching with my wrist, catching his wrist here. Then I'm going to insert my hand here and grab my own wrist. From here, I'm going to execute a forward lever by pressing his elbow down and lifting his wrist up. It doesn't have a whole lot of play. So be very careful with this. From this position here, I'm going to lean into him with my body weight, and I'm going to crank that arm forward in this way. This is using figure 4 action. The next one will be doing the same action, but just using what I call the palms. So what I will do is I will bring this palm under his wrist this way, and this palm on top of his elbow this way, and I'll have this action in here. Again, there's not a whole lot of play. This next portion will be if he tries to escape. One of the ways for him to escape this would be for him to come up on all fours and to just roll out of it. And then I'd find myself in another scenario, okay? So what I'm going to try to do is address blocking off those escapes. So from this corner top position, as I feel him coming up on his knees, I'm going to throw a body block in front of him, like I'm throwing out an obstacle. As you can see, you kind of lose all these levers you just recently had. But what you still have is a wrist crank. So from in here, you still got this. You're blocking off any forward roll to escape, and you'll still have a finishing technique. Okay? That will conclude the basic finishing holds for the corner top position. Work on them. Okay, the next finishing holds we're going to work on is going to be from what I call the side top position. For the side top position, Dean, your opponent is straight in front of you and your body lays flat over him, much like a plus sign or an X, okay? I'm going to try to not make too much noise here. What you do is there's two positions as far as your body on top is concerned. You're going to be on top, and you're going to be bringing your knees close this way. This is what I call the frog position, or if you kick them out into a sprawl position, you also work it from there. One of the main dangers to you is this hand. So you need to get in control of that hand immediately, either controlling it in here, controlling it here. Grab his waist. He won't be able to buck you if you grab his waist. Sometimes you can loop your hand around here and grab his waist. Sometimes you can even pass that over here, so that won't be a nuisance. Now, as far as his backhand is concerned, bring you this way a little bit, Dean. As far as the rear hand is concerned, you don't want to knee on the wrist or the forearm, because he could just wiggle out of it. He can just wiggle out, which is actually not a big deal. If you do want to secure that hand, my suggestion is knee on the bicep, a little bit towards the middle of the bicep, and then just use your hip and your knee as a pivotal point. So as he tries to escape, you'll just ride with it. And if you want, you can really add pressure on there. But as I said, ultimately, this hand is not that big of a deal. If he should go for a groin shot with that hand, if he starts going on for your groin, again, just kind of take it away and then give him a groin shot. You have a much clearer shot to his groin than he has to yours, okay? By that I mean, he can't really punch your groin. If you go down, there's no real punch, there's no real rip going on. There's not a whole lot he can, he can still hurt you, but like I said, you can hurt him a lot more than he can hurt you. So, that said, let's go right into the techniques, all right? The first series of movements are going to involve strikes. So, actually, let's pivot you just slightly right here. Yeah, right there. I'm just going to go right in here so you can see a little bit better. The first series of movements will involve elbow strikes. So from the side top, finishing hole number 1. At this point, I'll just move his hand here for the sake of showing the technique. Number 1 will be a horizontal elbow shot to the ears, to the temple, to the corner of the jaw, just right in here. You can be in this position and give him shots over here. Number 2, I'll raise my elbow up and I'll bring it down. So this will be a vertical elbow coming down. Number 3 is going to be a knee shot. What I do for the number 3 is I secure his head with my elbow right in here. I secure it so he has no play, and then from here I drive the knee. If he brings his head up like he wants to escape that, he can still bring the knee in. Okay? So that's going to be number 3. From here, we're going to work some punches. What I usually like to do with this right hand, I'll control this hand and I'll make a little tunnel. You don't want to come up this way to do your punches because it's going to give him an escape route. You want to keep your body weight on top of him still, and just make a little tunnel and you'll have plenty of room to start getting your shots in. Okay, so this is number 4. Number 4, you're going to work punches. Number 5, I'll come up a little bit so you can see. Number 5 is now ripping to the face, the tiger claw to the face. This way. Number 5. Number 6 is a thumb to the eye, in here and down this way. This way. 4, 5, 6. Number 7 is also a thumb rip, but now the thumb rip goes to the throat. So you stick this in the Adam's apple, and then the rip is out this way. In, let's turn you a little bit, Dean, and rip. Okay? Next one is a tiger claw rip to the throat. So from this position, you're going to turn 3 fingers, and the same idea. You're going to grab and you rip. Grab and rip. The next one, number 9, will be a pinch to the jugular vein. What you do, if this was his jugular vein, this index finger, you make a supporting edge, and then you pinch it in. And you pinch it this way. It'll do anything from blocking the blood supply to the brain to actually severing that vein. So it could be very dangerous. But you'll get it. Even if he flinches and he makes his neck thick, you can get the jugular vein right in here, and you'll get him to see white very quickly. You can catch it a little bit lower, okay? And number 10 is going to be thumb to the pit of the throat. So just in here, I'm going to go again, down and in, down and in. And all that will work from in here. So again, you've got 1, 2, secure, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, jugular pinch, 9, thumb to the pit of the throat, 10. That's the first part, which is your strikes. Okay, now this next portion, we're going to move into joint locks in the side tap. So I've got my partner here on his back. Come over this a little bit, Dean. Again, I'm just going to, for right now, just move this arm out of the way so we can show the techniques. Now we're moving into joint lock series, okay? The first one is a straight figure 4 arm bar. Figure 4 is made with the hands. This would be one of those cases where they're like pushing or whatever. Anytime their arm becomes straight, then what you do is rather than using your arm strength to bring his arm down, what you do is you use your body weight. So again, it'd be something like him trying to push you off, and you would drop with your body weight, something like this, okay? And that puts us into the straight figure 4 armbar, which looks like this. So this particular point here behind the elbow is what I'm shooting for, to get my radial bone underneath. And getting his palm up toward the ceiling, grab here, and this is going up. See what that does to his arm? I go up with my fingertips here, and this goes down. So these two interacting together. Okay? That's a straight figure 4 arm bar. From this position here, it's very easy to go into a forward lever. A lot of times they don't want this, so they're going to flex, and which gives us a forward lever. You just stick with it. Try to get the elbow to stay bent. From here, you're not going to get much forward action as far as his wrist being in the way. So what you do is watch my legs. I'm going to reposition slightly, get him nice and tight in here. Now I'm going to slide his wrist back as I bring pressure to his shoulder by bringing my forearm forward this way. So it'll go like this. Notice his hand didn't move a whole lot. Some people, depending on the flexibility of the shoulder, may need more. Some may need less. So it's just right in there, okay? So 11 is a straight figure 4 arm bar. 12, you have a forward lever when it comes up this way. For 13, it's similar to what we did before with the figure 4. I'm going to paste his hand down, and now I'm going to guide and control his thumb from in here. At this point, I'm going to insert my thumb right in here, and on his bicep muscle, we're going to what I call strike a match with my elbow point. Whenever you dig that elbow and strike the match this way, it causes the arm to flinch. And that's what I want. From this position in here, what I'm going to do is get it to flinch. From this flinch position, I immediately go right into what I call a gooseneck. Gooseneck wrist lock with a backward lever action. So, once again, it'll be from in here, you go, catch this, and then work it back. It doesn't take much. The last one for this particular series is a backward lever. Again, it'll work off something, maybe him pushing you. What you do is you use your body weight and paste it down. Come and grab your arm and get a bend on his elbow. You can use his head as a gauge right in here. So you get a nice 90-degree angle. You don't need your thumbs grabbing because they'll simply get in the way. So just keep your thumbs out of the lock. And from here, I'm going to slide his hand down towards his waist, gliding it on the floor, and then again, lifting on his elbow, attacking his shoulder. So it goes something like that. Doesn't take much, okay? So it would be, paste that down, catch this in here, backward figure 4 lever. Work on it. Okay, now we're going to work a series of finger locks and wrist locks from the side top position. So from the side top position, once again, the way finger cranks and wrist cranks work best, what we're going to do is we're going to crank it into the floor. Anytime I do a finger crank, as long as he can wiggle his elbow around, he's going to get out of it. So that's crucial. What you're going to do from a side top position is you're going to hug his elbow close to his body. Use both of your elbows as a chute. It comes right into there. So the only place he has to go is to bend his arm back and forth this way. That's all he has. His elbow is secured against his body and against the floor. You can try to come up a little bit, and that's going to play into what I want. From this position here, as I said, you're going to bring his elbow in here, and you're going to guide it over here. From here, we're going to work the next one, which is number 15, I believe. It's a finger crank. So we're working it in this way. I can figure 4 if I need to. Number 16 is a similar one, but now what we're going to do is we're going to grab all the fingers, and we are cranking and we are splitting. So it goes crank, back, and split this way. So the crank comes in here. All right? Now, from this position here is the next one, and what I do is I release this, and I go under. I'm going to catch his thumb, and I'm going to crank it back, and I paste my thumb to his wrist. We call this a pistol grip, and the crank is in this way. Okay? So let's review that sequence one more time. 15, fingers. 16, split the fingers. 17, catch the thumb. You could actually work both of these in there if you want, simultaneously or just the one. Okay? Now we're going to work on the wrist. From this position here, we have a wrist crank into the floor. So what I do is I come up here, and again, not so much using the strength of my arm as the leverage of my body is what I'm doing. To crank his wrist inward this way, push his elbow into the ground this way. It could be done in what I call, this is a U lock where his arm makes a U, or it could be done in a Z lock where it would be this way. So either of those are acceptable. You can use your chin. You can bring it in this way, figure 4. Okay, you're still cranking the wrist, all right? Cranking the wrist. The next one, again, since you're there, you may as well grab the thumb and crank his thumb. This is another pistol grip. The previous thumb was his wrist bent backwards this way. This one is with the thumb down. So I'm going to go right in here. Some people can actually touch their forearm with their thumb. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a twist to this. So I'm still cranking down, but from here I'm going to crank outward this way, like an outside wrist lock kind of an action this way. So I'm cranking down the thumb, and then I rotate it over this way where it locks. Okay? So it's 18, pass this over here, 19. Thumb pistol grip. Okay? Now, a lot of these fingers and wrist cranks, he's not going to let you do it, and if he's wise, he's going to make a strong fist. So what we're going to do is address when he makes a fist. Number 20, again, I'm pulling this in, and what I'm going to do is, what I want to do is get his wrist to bend. So I'm going to focus on these two knuckles and use my body leverage, once again, to come down. If that doesn't work, then I can soften him up by using finger pressure to the inside portions of his wrist in here. See how that gets his hand to open. It takes some of the strength away, or all the strength, depending on the person. So I'm going to really pinch this in here to get that wrist to flex. And now I get my wrist crank again. So again, just using simple leverage to drop it, or incorporating the finger pressure point to get that wrist to crank, to release, okay? That's 20. '21 is what I call the thumb attack. I'll turn Dean this way so you can see what I'm talking about. A little bit, Dean. Right. As he makes a fist, doesn't matter if his thumb is placed here or if it's placed here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the heel of my palm, and I'm going to drive it down. So the heel of the palm drives the thumb down this way, and you keep spiraling the thumb inward. So it'll be like this. From this position here, I can easily go for my thumb, pistol grip, okay? Number 22, I'll turn you this way a little bit, Dean. For 22, what we do, no matter how tight of a fist he makes, I can still get a finger. I can wiggle this in and get his pinky. And what you're going to do is from here is you're going to compress the tip of his pinky. You want it to come out this part here. You're going to compress it like this. You would get the pinky and you would squeeze and you would compress it. So you'll feel where all the slack comes out. Okay? So from in here, what I do is I wiggle in, grab his pinky, squeeze it, and that gives you this. The hand opens. From this position here, I'm just simply going to pistol grip the pinky finger. And this is very painful. Okay? That's number 22. Work on it. This next portion of side top, we're now going to move into choking. I'm going to position Dean this way. From the side top position in here, I'm going to start working choking techniques. The first one is going to be grabbing my wrist. So what I do here, let me position Dean a little bit more this way, is I'm going to put my head down as a post, and I'm going to make room so I can reach through and grab my wrist. Okay? My left hand, I'm going to post my head, and my left hand will come through here so I can grab my own wrist. My wrist is going to be reaching around his head this way. So you see how my hand is over here? Okay, let's try this. So what I'm going to do from here is I post my head on the floor, and I reach around and I grab. I make room to grab my wrist, and then from here I squeeze. okay? That's a face-to-face headlock choke, all right? From here, if I do this, and he doesn't allow this hand to go through, he's blocking that off, what I can do here is hook the chin. From this hooked position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn his chin this way, and I'm going to crank his head forward. So I have cranking his head forward and torquing of his chin, both of those working simultaneous. So it looks something like this. And again, it's not so much my arm strength as it is my entire back that's doing the work, okay? This next one is what I call an X choke. And the way the X choke is going to work is, from this position here, I'm going to sneakily slide this left hand across, and I'm going to grab his lapel, his clothes. Anything I'm going to grab over here. I want to secure an anchor. So from here, he doesn't know what's going on. I'm just sliding this hand over here. And now from here, what I do, I'll come up so you can see it, is I'm going to pull and I'm going to slide this back. It can start off as a face, crank, crush, and then I'll slide down until I get what I want. And then from here, the choke is in this way. It's very subtle. This hand is not giving anything away, and from here, you work it, okay? That's the X choke coming from here. The next one we call a peach basket. A lot of wrestlers use this move. Some people are flexible and they can handle this move, some are not. There's two ways to do it, or there's a number of ways to do it actually, but the main thing you're going to work on is to crank his neck forward. This is what you're working on, cranking his neck forward. So I can use his head coming up, or I can use the floor, bringing his lower body rather up. So it'll come something like this, and I can hook either the triceps, or rather the thighs, and then I chain grip my hands this way. Some people, they can't even do this. So again, I can work his neck forward this way, or I can bring his lower body up this way for the peach basket. There's another variation to this where I would turn my body a little bit more this way, and now what I'm doing, see how I'm kind of cradling his head there? I'm going to use my body to lurch forward in this way. I'm just going to snuggle him in there, and I'm grabbing this way. So you're cranking his head flat towards his chest in this way, okay? Which brings us to the next technique. From in here, we have what I call the tricep pull. What I do is, regardless of whether I have this leg or not, what I'm looking for is to hook his tricep up. So you want his arm as close to his head as possible, slide this in here, and hook his tricep. It doesn't look like much, but it's very painful. What I'm going to do is continue to pull his tricep back. At the same time, I'm going to lurch his head forward, or rather, slowly crank his head forward. For this, his hip is going to want to rotate out of it. That's what releases the slack. So what you do is you block off that hip in a number of ways. Simply by putting my body down, I can grapevine his legs in this way. I can work it from a peach basket position, grapevine again, and really crank it, possibly grabbing his clothes over here, and really work it in there. So you can really tighten that lock up. And again, you're cranking against his neck. You restrict blood supply, but more importantly, you're going to work the back of his neck, bring his chin downwards. Work on it. Okay, this last portion of the side top will involve working on his lower extremities. From the side top position in here, as I mentioned earlier, you always have the option to hit his groin. And the way we are going to hit his groin is going to be what I call a groin slap rip. So you make a cup out of your hand and you're slapping this way. So there's a compression that happens in there. And then from there you grab and you rip. And again, it's not so much my arm as it is my body. So you've got groin, slap, and rip. This will pretty much take the fight out of the guy. The next one, we are now going to start working on his lower extremities. As I said, from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook his thigh, and I come up, and I cross my leg. I insert my leg, and now I'm going to gain control over his ankle. Comes in this way. So I put it in my armpit, and then I hook his ankle with my forearm. I take out the slack by bringing my hand close. Notice how the crook of my wrist fits right behind his ankle. From here, I clasp my hands. I'm going to turn. He's going to want to, again, rotate this hip to take out that slack. So, another thing that I can do, here, let's have you come this way, Dean, is once I come up, as I'm getting ready to cinch this, what you can do is shift this over here. And now go for this lock. You can sit back into the lock, or you can stay up. What I'm going to show you is a series of movements to do once you stayed up. So again, he's right here across my waist, bring it nice deeply into my armpit, hook it with my forearm, clasp my hands, get this nice and secured, and I am torquing, and I turn my waist this way. This is 29. My foot is going to slide to stretch out, take all the slack out of the knee joint and the ankle joint. So this foot is turning and sliding that way. My supporting leg here goes right in this way. Okay? Now, the next movement will entail just securing his leg here, and from this tied up position, he may try to get up and try to do different things, or he may try to punch me or pull me in or whatever. Should I find myself in here, this is fine, because all I have to do here is now work a forward neck crank. This is being nice. This is not being so nice. Just work the forward neck crank. This hand here, I can also take advantage of it, and I can work an arm bar. I can do the wrist lock. I can just put what I call the palm on the shoulder and work the arm bar in here. If I do a fall this way or a fall that way, it'll be very painful for him. And the last one, number 32, will be if this foot decides to kick. So what I'll do is I'll just parry it this way. I'll block it, pass it, and then what I'm going to do here is what I call the corkscrew. From this position, I slide this foot deep into the crook of his own knee, and I'm literally pushing it with my knee. From here, I'm going to flex this down, and I'm going to start cranking. As I start cranking his ankle, he's going to want to roll out of it. As he rolls, I hook this in here. I'm going to continue my rotation. And I'm using the force of my knee, pushing this way against his own knees, and crank it forward. If I want to, I can continue to add extra leverage in here. I can now come over here, this, go into these stuff. But this is the main technique. In there. This is the corkscrew. Stay there. I'll show you as I unfold how it comes out. Deep in his knee joint, and my foot is inserted, pressing against both of his knees. Work on it. That concludes this tape. Hope you enjoyed the material. As far as the finishing holds in these positions, it's very important for you to first of all learn to recognize the positions that you're looking for, stabilize the positions. If you try to do a technique too fast, you may be countered right away. First, learn to stabilize. Use your weight and the position to your advantage. Once you assert a position, then relax. The more you relax, the easier you'll see what's coming to you, and take what's given to you. As they struggle to escape, to strike you, to counter you, that's when you're going to have the ability to finish a move. And by the same token, if you find yourself working too hard for a move, you'll telegraph it and you can be countered. Or if you are in fact losing it, if it's a lost cause, transition, flow. Go with the flow. Transition to either another technique or go to another position that's also to your favor. And then again, start all over again. See where the techniques will happen. Work on it.